set up here. So I might want. All right, everybody, we are setting up for a Facebook Live update with the snowfall heading our way tonight and a big winter storm that includes snow, rain, and wind throughout the day tomorrow. So give us just a couple more seconds to get set up here, and then we've got a live update on Facebook, YouTube, as well as our website coming up in just a couple seconds. So give me just a couple here. All right. We will want to share. All right, everybody, welcome into our Facebook Live broadcast. I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick, broadcasting at about 9:10 p.m. on this Thursday evening, giving you just a couple minutes preempting even our own 10 o'clock newscast coming up to give you an idea of what is happening with this winter storm that's going to start tonight and what is going to be an extremely messy day weather-wise for tomorrow. There's snow, rain, and wind, all the primary headlines in the forecast throughout the entire day on Friday. And really one of the key messages here is that the snow tonight is going to change into rain tomorrow, but what time that snow changes to rain is going to be different for a lot of different locations across the inland Northwest. And of course, I want to answer a lot of your questions live here on Facebook as well, so please make sure to just shout them out and try to get to as many of those as possible. And of course, do make sure to like my own Facebook page as well, at Meteorologist Thomas Patrick, giving you live updates pretty much throughout the night and into the day tomorrow as well. So let's go over just kind of a debrief first before we get into some of those questions. We take you to the map here, and that is a winter storm warning in the pink shaded areas. That's northeastern Washington, almost all of North Idaho. So that's Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, Chewelah, Newport included as well as Deer Park. These are the locations under a winter storm warning. As for the advisory, the purple shades, that's where Spokane lies, as well as Pullman and parts of Ritzville, Davenport, out towards Grand Coulee, and Omak is in the winter weather advisory. The difference between those two criterias is that in the advisory, it's going to be a little less snow and a little bit more rain, and in the warnings, it's going to be a lot more snow and probably less rain or almost no rain in some of those regions. And this is just the valleys, not the mountains included. As for what's happening right now on Doppler radar, just a couple shades of some very light snowfall now making its way into northern and central Washington. So even areas like Moses Lake might be seeing some flurries right now, as well as towards the Grand Coulee and Nispelum areas, probably getting the first shades of some snowfall. This is pretty light for now, but it is advancing from west to east across the region. I do think it starts maybe around midnight for Spokane, but probably picks up into the overnight hours, like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Big plume of moisture pretty much slamming western Washington right now. Basically, once this gets across the Cascades, whatever moisture is left over, which will be plenty, is going to come in the form of snow at first and then rain later on. So I'll show you future tracker because this is going to give us the best idea of what's going to happen. This is 2 o'clock in the morning. The snow advancing into the Spokane area might actually flurry before then, but this is where pretty much the accumulations begin. All of northern Washington you see blanketed in the snow, but there is some rain for some of the lowest elevations. Pretty much anywhere west of Ritzville towards Moses Lake probably ends up as a rain or a snow that might have a hard time even sticking to the ground. Our temperatures will be not just in the 30s tonight, but actually increasing throughout the overnight hours. So this is not going to be a very icy situation, more of a slushy situation, if you will. Advancing the time frame to 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So for the early risers out there, be ready to drive in the snow if you have to commute tomorrow morning. This is really when the heaviest snow is going to come down first thing in the morning tomorrow. You see 6 a.m. Spokane, Coeur d'Alene, pretty much in the thick of things. Again, rain in some of the lowest elevations of the Columbia Basin. Now at 10 a.m., that snow starts to change over to rain in Spokane as our temperatures start to climb farther above that freezing mark. And that transition from snow to rain is going to be the key in not just the late morning hours, but particularly the afternoon, especially for areas like Coeur d'Alene. You're probably expecting the snow to change to rain at around the noon hour tomorrow, where in Spokane it's probably closer to 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Even by the afternoon, areas like Sandpoint, Bonners Ferry, Chewelah, most of the valleys probably see a quick change over to rain, but notice that the precipitation does thin out. It might actually cause some of that snow in the morning to start melting by the evening hours. That's how quickly things are going to change around. Chance for some light snow showers into the evening on Friday. Wow, that seemed very complicated, but let's break it down. Snowfall first. Again, this is what's falling in pretty much the morning hours on Friday, about 2 to 3 inches of a slushy snow. And pretty much once it starts raining, all that snow actually starts melting just as quickly. So it's going to be hard to measure out there. The most snow is going to fall in northeastern Washington, northern Idaho, 3 to 7 inches of snow because it snows longer throughout the day on Friday, as well as the Silver Valley as well. Then we see that transition to rain, which is going to be a big stage of the forecast into Friday. One other note is the mountain passes are going to be blanketed with heavy snow. In fact, the Cascades already seen, I think, a forecast of like 1 to 3 feet of snow out of this storm system. Look for the snow to continue over Stevens and Snoqualmie Pass on Saturday, and then PM snow over the passes closer to us, Sherman and Lookout Pass on Saturday as well. Here's a good look at what's happening. Snow first, transition to rain. I only use Spokane for this particular map. Seen that transition take place somewhere at around 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, but that's Spokane. In Coeur d'Alene, that transition's probably a little bit later, like one tile later, closer towards the noon hour, and then areas like Sandpoint, probably another tile later. So it's going to be a very dynamic situation, but realize the key message here, snow in the morning, transitions to rain by the afternoon. The one thing here is the bottom line. This is the wind speeds, or at least the impact of the wind, strongest at night, almost into the overnight hours. So the red tiles here are 6 p.m. Friday night through the overnight hours. That's when those wind gusts are going to be the strongest. They could be upwards of even 50 miles per hour in some cases. I was asked earlier today if that snow followed by the rain could give us flooding concerns. The answer there is no, because there's no snow pack on the ground. If this all came down as rain, it would be about a ½ an inch of rain overall, which would actually, in this case, be the melted snow plus the rain on top. Not all that much rain, but a very wet and slushy situation ahead of us. And one more note before I get to your questions, there is wind advisories for southern Washington, so that's the Tri-Cities up to the Dayton area. We do have wind gusts forecasted already up to 50 miles per hour for the evening hours on Friday. So this is a very obviously dynamic situation. We have been tracking this all week long, and we're riding that fine line between rain and snow. You probably could see it for yourself that the snow changes over to rain as soon as those temperatures do get warm enough. And that transition for Spokane takes place at around 10 o'clock in the morning. Okay, let's get to some of your viewer questions now that I got through my entire debrief here. Let's see here. And yeah, make sure to just shout out, even if it's just where you're watching from. Would love to give you guys a more detailed update, pretty much city by city, because I know a lot of focus goes into Spokane, which is kind of our home base here, but I do want to make sure that everybody understands when that transition from snow to rain is going to take place, because I think that's going to be kind of the most noticeable factor of our weather forecast for tomorrow. But pretty much everybody, unless you're west of Ritzville, gets snow through the morning hours for tomorrow. What about Newport? Of course, always one of our favorite cities up here in Newport. So snow pretty much all throughout the morning hours tomorrow. Your transition from rain to snow probably takes place at around noon or shortly thereafter. So here is the noon hour, Newport basically right here. Around noon, give or take an hour or two, is when that snow transitions over to rain. Your forecast snowfall totals will probably be in that 3 to 5 inch range, maybe a little bit more if this lasts a lot longer, but a very wet snowfall, a very wet morning commute in Newport. Snoqualmie Pass on Saturday. So actually this is really interesting, is that this is not the only storm system that I'm tracking for the forecast here tonight. There's another one that comes through on Saturday. Where did I just put this? So here's our mountain pass forecast. So Snoqualmie's here on the left side. Rain and snow, like a rain-snow mix during the day tomorrow. Of course, Snoqualmie Pass, one of the lower elevation passes in Washington. But on Saturday, it goes back to snow. There's another storm system that moves through on Saturday that ends up hitting the inland northwest Saturday night. So looks like a pretty snowy forecast for Snoqualmie, even on Saturday as well, with the second storm system moving through over this weekend. So yeah, please be careful if you are doing any kind of mountain pass traveling. Make sure to check any kind of restrictions or advisories that might be on some of the mountain passes as well. When will the transition to rain in Republic or will it continue as snow? So Republic, one of our more northerly locations. So here it might act, so in Republic, which is way up here in Ferry County, this looks like it actually stays as snow most of the day. If anything, you start to see a little bit of the valley get picked out here at around 1:30, 2 o'clock maybe or so. It's that's a fine line where it might not change over to rain in Republic. If it does, it'll be during the day part hours, like 1, 2, 3, or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but it might stay as a rain-snow mix at the warmest up in Republic. And a lot of these far northern, like close to the Canadian border areas like Curlew could be another location where it might be hard-pressed to actually change over to rain with the temperatures just a little bit colder overall. What is the snow level for tomorrow, asks Eric. That's a great question. Our snow levels, I think, get down to about 1,500 feet at the lowest, but they start to rise throughout the day pretty much steadily. And I think this is here's where a great example is. I rewind Future Tracker to about 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. Notice that areas like Ritzville are in the rain in the morning hours, one of the few that actually stay rain throughout the entire day. So I think all of Spokane, including downtown Spokane, which would be about 1,800, 1,900 feet, are actually above where the snow level will be. But what happens is that snow level just slowly rises throughout the day, and that starts to include more and more areas like Spokane's downtown. Eventually the South Hill gets included, as well as the airport at 2,300 feet, and it just continues to rise and rise until you start to see more and more of the valleys, especially in northern Washington, get picked out here. So I think it rises from about 1,500 feet in the morning to about 3,000 feet into the afternoon hours. Of course, that 3,000 feet does mean that Lookout Pass would definitely stay as snow all day long. That's an excellent question there, right there. And what about Moses Lake, says Rebecca? You're actually one of the few that's going to stay as rain almost the entire day, because it's the lower Columbia Basin. If anything, it might be right now where temperatures are actually at the coldest is when it could be a little bit of snow, but no accumulations at all for the Moses Lake area. And I want to point that out again. So let's put up the snowfall map. And you got to understand that these snowfall totals, most of this is falling in the morning hours on Friday, including Spokane, 2 to 3 inches of snow. That's a very wet, slushy snow. And as soon as it starts raining, it actually starts to melt off pretty quickly. So we might get up to 3 inches of snow, but if you measure it by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, it might only be an inch of snow that's melting pretty quickly. So we might build up to these snowfall totals before it starts melting away pretty quickly. Moses Lake, no snow accumulations. And where I have the about zero is where we could see some snow flurries, maybe some sticking on like your cars, which are a bit more conducive to sticking that snowfall, but not really any kind of accumulations. That would include Ritzville, Lewiston, Orofino, Grangeville, some of these more southerly locations. Might see a little snow, but be hard-pressed to see that snow stick overall. So that's what I mean by the about zero indicators there. Yeah, it does say 3 to 7 inches for the Chewelah area. See these northerly locations like Chewelah, Colville, Kettle Falls, Sandpoint, Bonners Ferry, all in the 3 to 7 inch range. This is because it snows not just tonight, but through the entire morning hours on Friday and perhaps part of the afternoon as well. It kind of picked out Sandpoint as being one of those areas that might be hard-pressed to change over to rain, as opposed to Moses Lake, which is hard-pressed to even see snow at all. Such a dynamic and diverse region we have here in the inland Northwest. Pretty much two entirely different forecasts, especially if you are talking about areas like Chewelah or Moses Lake. All part of the inland Northwest, both getting completely different forecasts here. And of course, Spokane, we're somewhere in the middle of those two where we see the snow at first and then it changes over to rain. Yeah, so hopefully this Facebook Live broadcast was able to give you guys a really clear understanding of what's happening with the forecast tomorrow. I know that this can get very complicated, and trust me, looking at the computer models the last 2 days, it showed an even diverse range of possibilities across the region, because there were some instances where some computer models were saying all snow for Spokane, but thankfully it's actually snow changing to rain. So hopefully you understand what the key messages are. Snow in the morning hours for pretty much the entire inland Northwest, especially Spokane, a very snowy and slushy commute for Friday morning, but most areas will start to see a transition to rain by noon, by midday, or if not, some of the afternoon hours overall. Look for the most snow in our northern areas. Not much, pretty much all rain over in central Washington, and then somewhere in between those two forecasts for Spokane and Pullman. So hopefully this makes you weather aware for tomorrow. Do drive safely. It's not going to be all that cold, but it is going to be a slushy, wet, snowy morning commute for tomorrow. So I think with that being said, that's all for me. We have a 10 o'clock broadcast on the CW22 coming up in about 35 minutes here, and as well as KREM 2 News at 11 o'clock. So I'll be pouring over the latest computer models and the latest data for the most accurate forecast that I can possibly deliver to all of you. That plus our live radar will be on those broadcasts as well. So stay tuned for those then. With that, thank you so much for tuning into this Facebook Live video. I'm meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Please make sure to hit like both on this video as well as on my Facebook page. I certainly appreciate your support and trust when it comes to the inland Northwest weather. I certainly try my hardest, my very hardest for all of you at home. So hopefully this was great information for you. I can't say I'm going to do a 25-minute weathercast for the news tonight, but we hope that you'll join us then. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you at 10 and 11 o'clock tonight. That'll be all for now. Thanks, everybody.